Welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Friday, March 29th, 2024, and this is episode 889 of Living Free in Tennessee. And according to Tactical's phone, we are live, and he forgot to mute his phone. So there you go. It's the weekly notification that we're live that you get to hear live on the internet. Anyway, it's the Homestead Happenings show. So we're going to talk about all the things on the homestead. Last week, Tactical he hijacked my podcast. I know a lot of you liked that. I got a lot of good comments over on the Fountain app, which, by the way, if you're interested in just doing nothing, basically to earn a little bit of Bitcoin by listening to podcasts, head over to Fountain and download their app. It's fountain.fm. And you can listen to things, interact with people. You pay a tiny little bit of Bitcoin every time you post a comment or something. You can tip your podcasters. And I believe you get paid for listening as well. You earn a small amount of Satoshis, which is a tiny fraction of a Bitcoin, to listen. And what I like about it is that I get comments on the episode from people who listen to the episode. So I've been responding to all those comments as I get them. So that's cool. Anyway, lots of super excited people about that, posting over on the Fountain app and on YouTube. So you did well.
Good to hear.
Yeah, good to hear. How is our audio today, guys? I want to make sure you can hear me. I see the DFW's in the room and Pippinized is here. Pippinized, are we going to see you next week? Because it sounded like we might not see you next week, and we want to see you next week. Anyway, we're going to talk a lot about the same things we've been talking about for the last week and a half, 2 weeks now. First of all, has Bruni had her baby?
No.
Okay. Does she look like she's in labor?
No.
Oh, no. Are you staying home next weekend because she's having triplets?
I don't know yet.
There's a chance that Tactical might not be an SRF.
I'm really hoping she gives birth today or tomorrow because we got rain coming in Monday, Tuesday.
Oh, of course.
Which means she'll probably give birth on Monday.
Yeah, so you're going to go hang a tarp?
I haven't figured it out yet.
Okay. Anyway, we're jumping all over the place. So it's spring scramble time on the homestead, which means everything needs to be done at once. How's that going for you?
I am all over the road and literally playing the game of I have to walk over here so I can carry this over to that spot and this over to that spot and grab this on the way back.
Yep.
And murdering weeds on the way.
The frugal homesteader wastes no trips, right?
Try not to.
It's funny how that works. So, yeah, spring scramble is a thing, and pretty much between now and the end of May, we're doing a lot. I'm going to cough so you talk.
Yeah, right now I'm in the boat of all the weeds are coming up. I've got stuff that I put in the ground over the last couple of weeks, like cuttings and whatnot. So it's getting a little bit of rain. So, seeing where the water is going. So making some adjustments on trying to prevent erosion and all that kind of thing is all just, and with sheep on top of all of that.
Sheep!
They can't hear you.
I know. For the last week and a half, every time I yell sheep, I get meh from the living room, but she's not in the living room right now, is she?
No. There's a new version of the S word. It's like, oh, you said it.
She was pretty happy to see me this morning. So our schedule next week will be 2 shows, Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday, we've got Jack Spirko from the Survival Podcast. John Willis and I have a show at 9:30 in the morning. And then I have pre-recorded a show about health and medical preparedness with Dr. Eric Nager that you're going to love. It was a great interview. And I have been saving it to play next week because next week I'll be in Camden, Tennessee, getting ready for the Self-Reliance Festival. And I decided not to also try to do shows from there. So just one less thing. So remember, guys, I'm trying to hone myself this year. And one of the things I need to do is do less. So do better at fewer things. And so forcing the podcasts out from Camden seemed like a bad idea. And I'm glad I made that decision early and was able to set a foundation for it. The Monday show after Self-Reliance Festival, which is April 8th, will be a replay of a show that Chris Plim on the internet, he posted that this one show from a while ago really still motivates him. So we're going to replay that one. It's about gratitude. And then we'll be getting back on the horse on Tuesday next week, back to the week after next, back to regular schedule. Anyway, with that, it's time for our first usual segment of today's show, and that's about the wild foods around us. It's our featured forage section. There's a lot of dandelion flower out there.
I've noticed a good bit.
Yeah, have you noticed me harvesting any?
No.
I need to harvest some now. They will bloom all summer long, and so you can harvest them all summer, but I like to get them now, get them dried, and have them put up for tea. I actually just save them for tea. Other people make dandelion jelly. They make dandelion wine. I make dandelion tea in the winter when I feel like I have a cold coming on, because dandelion's one of those herbal remedies that appears to be good for like everything under the sun. Lots of wives' tales about that and some empirical information. I'm not harvesting the roots at this time of year because their energy is going into the flower. And then, of course, they get the little poofy things that you can wish. We haven't seen any of those yet. So that'll be fun. It's also like normal early spring forage. The watercress is finally starting to come back after getting beat back by that later freeze that we had. And I'll probably be able to harvest some of that right after Self-Reliance Festival. I might be able to get one in before I leave, but we'll see. It is my tradition on Easter, which is this Sunday, to do a wild edible salad. So I might have to go for a walk and harvest some things for that. Dead nettle is in abundance and the sheep love it.
Have you ever looked into redwood flowers?
No.
I was just
Red bud flowers?
No, redwood.
Do we have redwoods here?
Yes. Or I think it was redwood.
Redwoods are on the...
No, it's not redwood.
They're on the west coast.
I'll have to look it up again.
Okay.
But the one with the purple flowers.
Dogwood?
No, it's not dogwood.
The one with the purple flowers.
There's purple flowers all over on trees right now.
Okay.
And I was looking it up, and apparently the Native Americans used to use the flowers.
Oh, no, I haven't. So we're going to find the name of that because it is not redwood.
No.
I thought it was red bud.
It might be red bud.
It's red bud. I actually overheard you listening to that. So if only you had a computer in your pocket, you could look this up on right now, live on the internet. So no, I haven't really looked into the uses of red bud flowers. We do have red bud blooming right now, and I also have fruit trees blooming. So the wild cherries have not bloomed yet. The pear tree, the Asian pear tree, is in full bloom. My other pear tree just has leaves and no blooms, and it already bloomed, so it's probably not going to do anything. The Cloudy has been eating my plum tree, by the way. Like, she may have killed it.
They're not there anymore.
Okay. Anyway, and then the plum trees and the peach trees have not bloomed yet, so there's still hope that we might get a single piece of fruit this year off one of the trees in the food forest.
Okay.
Yeah, there's hope. The strawberries have flowers, which means we'll be getting berries soon. I did not thin them out yet. And I should have done that already. But I do have red rocks out because I never took the red rocks in from last year. So I've already got the red rocks out to train the one chicken not to eat my strawberries.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Hopefully we'll get some strawberries off that. I will probably transplant them late, and that's okay as long as you water them in, because I want more strawberries out on the swales, the micro swales where the food forest is, as ground cover. It was really fun to see what has survived the winter in the food forest. I have once again killed a lot of rosemary plants. Is there a single live rosemary plant on the property at this time?
There are two that I know of that are still alive. One of them very much looks like death, but there is still some green on it.
Okay, so we may have overwintered a rosemary plant finally. If not, back to the drawing board. We'll try. So one of them got killed by fire ants, and I think that location wouldn't be bad, but there are still some fire ants there. we've had a lot of fire ant activity this year, unlike anything ever before.
Yeah.
And I haven't been very disciplined about killing them. So I will be more disciplined about killing them right after SRF. But every so often I go on a rampage. Is that about the best way to describe it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the poison hemlock is coming up everywhere. And I bring this up because, oh, by the way, dead nettle, chickweed, like all the usual spring things, wild mustard flower, all of it's out. So the poison hemlock's coming up in the pasture on the side of the road. It looks very, very different to Queen Anne's lace, even as a young plant, once you've seen the two plants. And its stem has little purple dots on it. And then it grows in a slightly different configuration. So I have Queen Anne's lace coming up in the food forest that I'm just letting go that looks a lot like poison hemlock, but is not. And then we have it in the pasture and need to be chop and dropping that, which we've been doing in our spare time, right?
Yeah, and there's about to be a massive wave of going through the pasture to murder everything.
Yeah. So what we're
It's
doing
that
there,
time of year.
like the sheep don't walk up to poison hemlock and eat it as a rule, unless there's nothing else to eat. They will choose starvation over, I mean, they will choose to kill themselves with hemlock over starvation in most cases, but they have plenty to eat right now. And my worry is that the babies will try it because they'll try it. Like little baby sheep put their mouths on everything. So our strategy with the poison hemlock, and it's never been a problem, by the way, like it's been in the pasture the whole time, is to let it get up about 6 or 8 inches and then cut it so that it's put energy into the plant and it's harder for it to recover. And to do that over the next few years, and hopefully we will reduce the amount of poison hemlock in the pasture. I don't see there being a way to get rid of it totally, because it's all over the holler. So even if we get it out of the pasture, it's going to be in the ditches, it's going to be in the neighbor's pasture, it's going to be, like on the hillside. That was an amazing stomach growl.
Yeah.
Are you
Rednecks
hungry?
be hungry.
Are you hungry?
Yes.
Do you want me to go make you a bottle?
No.
So we're on to livestock. You get to do the first bullet.
So I was going to wait until next week to actually say what we named the little one.
By the way, she could still die, so just be ready for that, guys.
Yes, it's possible, but especially after talking to the person I got this flock from and hearing about her bottle baby, I'm a little more confident that this one might make it. So I've actually started calling her Stormy and doing it deliberately to try to get her adjusted to the name. So it is starting to take. I walked into the pasture yesterday and just yelled Stormy, and she came running up to the crest of the hill and was like, "Oh, here."
Did she bat all the way across the pasture on her way to you?
No.
Sometimes she does that.
Yeah.
I want a bottle. Yeah, so her name is Stormy, and she thinks her name is Good Sheep because that's what she was called for the first however long.
That and Little Sheep.
Little Sheep and Good Sheep. The black-nosed baby, who I call this sheep the black-nosed baby, but it's really got black lips. It's just that calling it that seemed a little weird on the internet. So I've been calling it the black-nosed baby because it's got such a pronounced white to black contrast there.
Yeah.
And it kind of looks like its nose is also involved from across the pasture. How's it doing today?
Doing good.
Yeah, it's not getting as much milk as I want it to get. Like it looks smaller. Or it's a boy.
Yeah. I mean, he's not getting as much milk as you would like, but he is getting milk.
Yeah, so I'm a little concerned about him. I feel like if he makes it to 3 or 4 weeks, we'll know. He's not 2 weeks old yet.
Yeah.
He'll be 2 weeks on Saturday. So he's almost 2 weeks old.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting to watch. His stomach just growled like big time again. You sure you don't want me to make you a bottle?
I'm sure.
Okay. He does want me to make breakfast sausage right after this, apparently, though. Of course, we don't have any. Do you have more?
A little bit.
Okay, I'm going to the store today.
Okay.
Where I'm going to actually buy breakfast sausage, guys, because I'm not making it between now and Self-Reliance Festival. So we're keeping our eye on him. He's one of the triplets, and I'm not sure what we should do about that that animal. Like, we can augment his milk if we want to, but we will see. A. Ray Pierce says, it's a dark analogy, but the local sheep guy around me explained bum lambs as animals looking for places to die. But as long as you stay on top of the feeding, you should be okay. Yeah. So Cloudy is a third that is what's referred to as a bum lamb, I guess, or a bummer lamb, because you have to bottle feed them. And she's got plenty of food. The black-nosed one, I haven't like assaulted him with a bottle yet. So, and I don't know if I'll mess up his attachment with his mom, because they sort of figure out who's theirs by the smell of their milk coming out of their rear ends. So I don't want to like mess that up too much. We'll see. We'll see what happens. On the one hand, it's like survival of the fittest in our flock because we want strong genetics. So we will see. At this point, we know we either have 4 males and 4 females, or 5 females and 3 males. I haven't gotten close enough to Kaki's babies to verify if I have 2 females there or a male and a female. I know I have at least 1 female there.
Yeah.
And I was like, is that the umbilical cord or is that something else hanging down? So it's just, it's a matter of time before that becomes obvious. Yesterday, I started feeding the sheep a little bit of creep, which is like a grain. And I was feeding them from my hand so they wouldn't get more than half a cup per one, because they've never had that since moving in here with us. But I've noticed that the moms who are nursing are looking skinny. And while I do like grass adjusted sheep, I decided a little supplementation, especially on the one who's feeding 3, is a good idea, because then she can produce more milk and maybe the little black nose baby gets more milk. But so they were like very motivated by creep.
Yes.
And
more so than the Timothy pellets.
Yeah, like just all over it, like straight out of my hand. Yep, I'll eat that out of your hand. And so I was able to just portion it out. And we also feed Stormy creep. Oh, like she has free access to it, which is the bottle baby. And she's not actually eating it yet. She just kind of chews it and spits it out. Yesterday, I saw her in her cage going, and I thought she was choking, and I realized she was trying to chew her cud.
Yeah.
So they bring it up from their stomach. So that means she's learning how to do that, which is good.
Yeah.
But when I was doing that, Brunhilde, who has not given birth yet, let me touch her belly. Like, she was letting me pet on her. And I know when Dawn had her, like, she let her pet on her through bribery. And I felt this lump on the side, and it was a head. So I got to feel the babies moving in her belly, and that was pretty darn cool.
Yeah. And Brunhilde was all up over me last night when I went back over there.
Yeah, she's like all about she's like, do you got any more creep? Got any more creep?
Pretty much.
Got any more creep? So we'll be doing that daily until I leave, and then you can do it daily. Eggapalooza is on. So we have all the eggs now.
Yeah.
What are the ducks doing with their eggs?
Hiding them for Easter.
Oh, have you been hunting eggs?
Not really, but I keep finding them all over the place. There's a spot down at the pond where there's like a tree and then a bank that slopes up, and literally there's 1, 2, 3 eggs, like they were strategically placed right at the edge of the bank.
Yep. So the rabbit mites are gone. The rabbits are looking a lot happier since we took care of that situation.
Yeah.
And we haven't bred anybody. I'm going to look at the condition of the one doe we have right now and see if I even think she should yet, because she needs to fatten up. She had lost some weight with the ear mites. So just keeping an eye on that, and you need to get the new rabbitry set up.
Yeah.
In your spare time.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, that's what's up with the animals. Everybody else is fine. We do have a chicken setting eggs. She's on her 2nd week now, so she'll be giving birth. The eggs will be hatching during Self-Reliance Festival. And I'm just gonna tell our farm sitter, like whatever happens there.
Yeah.
We'll put some water out. The mom will do what she wants to do with the babies from there. She's on the wrong side of the fence. So, is there a gate between those two sides?
Kind of.
Yeah, we might want to peel back the gate that's not keeping them in anyway before we leave, just so she can walk back into the coop with them if she wants to. But like the best way to raise chickens is let the mommy raise chickens.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. Yesterday he thought we had a second broody one, but we did not. What we have are 40,000 eggs in the coop right now that nobody's collected all week.
Yeah.
So that's a thing. They'll be fine. He had the electric fencing weird, so it was hard to get into the coop, which is why I didn't go in. And now it's not weird, but yesterday was not a day that I was collecting. Every time I was down there, I did not have the egg basket with me. That was like it. So I'll grab them today, and then the thing you can do with those, like those actually would be perfect probably for incubating if we were going to incubate eggs.
Yeah.
And if we incubate eggs, it'll be in another 4 weeks that we start that. But
you don't want eggs hatching during the workshop?
no eggs hatching during the work. I mean, people would love to see that, but I don't want to manage that and the dogs and everything else. And you're not even going to be here. So
I'll be here for part of it.
Yeah.
They'd start hatching the day that I leave.
His sister had the audacity to schedule her wedding during my spring workshop. Family. Anyway, so those would be great. You can still eat them because they don't usually go bad in that amount of time, and it hasn't been hot. If you're wondering if the eggs are bad, you can candle them or crack them one at a time separately in case you get a bad one. So what I do with eggs that sat in the coop like that, because things got away from us, I use them first. I crack them individually. I actually don't even candle them. I'm pretty sure most of those eggs are not. Well, I'm sure they're not bad, having only been in there for like 5 days. But because they'll last for 60 days on the counter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So unless one got cracked, and then that's kind of obvious when it's cracked.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the deal. Eggapalooza is on. My show notes tell me to give you the birthing summary, and I'm going to give it as a summary. If you want a lot of detail about what sheep birthing season was like, my Monday episode, which is titled All Creatures Great and Small, is about everything that happened the week that all the sheep were birthed except for Brunhilde, who is probably 21 days behind, which puts her giving birth at Self-Reliance Festival as well, unless she just please does it now.
Yeah.
Anyway,
really hoping.
Yeah, we're all hoping. But if they are on the same cycle, she's going to be giving birth that weekend.
We'll see.
Yeah, maybe during the eclipse. Anyway, we had a ewe not able to deliver, who I had to get involved with and pull the lambs, and they were stillborn. We had a prolapse happen. We had a lot of different things happen all during that week. We had a lot more pregnant sheep than we've ever had before. And I learned a lot, and Monday's episode goes through a lot of that. So I'm not going to go into excruciating detail here because we already did on Monday. We will talk about the prolapse later in the show. Our next segment is Grow, which is where we talk about what's growing. Tell us about your baby pepper.
Yeah, last fall, I took 3 cuttings off a couple of pepper plants, got 3 of them to root. 2 of them have since died, but I've managed to keep 1 of them alive, and it's, I don't know, a little bit, I guess it's the size of like 2 softballs right now, and it keeps putting on flowers, and I keep yanking the flowers off. I'm like, no, it's not time yet. So I'm debating whether I want to cut that back a little bit, but that one will be going in a spot where I had some peppers do pretty well last year. So high hopes for that one. This is the first time I've ever overwintered a pepper like that
Yeah,
in
so
any form.
my peppers didn't germinate in my seedlings at all. I realized that today. Like I've been keeping my eye on it. Peppers take longer than tomatoes. So I had used old seed stock for that because I could not find my seeds from this year. So we're starting over with peppers here. And hopefully I get at least one jalapeno pepper. I might see if Spirko can bring me one in May that he has started. But I really would prefer from the seed that I've been seeing here to get some jalapenos going. So we'll see how that goes. The peas did germinate. Their germination rate was not great. I'm putting a second seeding of peas out this weekend. I was waiting for last night's near frost. Did it frost last night outside visibly?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so it was cold last night, but it had frosted the night before and I didn't want to put them out. So we'll put those out and see what happens. If the oven turns on, which it looks like it will, then we're not going to get great pea production this year because we've been doing it's sort of like a boat goes on water and bounces. We've been doing the temperature bounce a lot more this year on the extreme side. And that is what it is, right? The other seedlings that I have are getting transplanted today. The tomatoes are getting acclimated to aquaculture, except for a few of the plants will go in the ground. And then the lettuce is ready to go out, but I need to harden it off. So we're going to put those in slightly bigger pots so they can harden off with more room for their feet to grow. And then I'm hoping to have those in the aquaponics system before SRF. That's where they're going to. They're not going to the upper garden. What else? I have a new green that's not going out yet, but it'll go into a bigger pot. I have Swiss chard that's about an inch tall that I could put outside, but the same thing, I'll have it in bigger pots. So our farm sitter gets to take care of seedlings while she is here. And then I'm also doing more direct sowing this weekend. So I'm going to put radishes in, and I might do my first sowing of beet seeds this week. I am not direct sowing any lettuce this year, just don't want to, or arugula. And I still haven't started basil for transplants. So if I get like extra time, which is very unlikely, I will start some herbs that I want. And I'm going to direct sow because I didn't start them inside this one plant I can't remember the name of. Do you know what it is? Fennel. Fennel. I'm going to direct sow fennel this year because I usually start it inside, but I didn't. So that's what's happening in the garden. Next up is Holler Neighbors and Community. That's a long silence. Are you going to start talking sometime? He doesn't want to talk about it. You don't want to talk about it, do you?
Oh, that was so the big thing that happened this week was a full-on everybody involved with culling one of the sheep. And of course, it had to be one of my favorite ones because there's a whole story behind her getting found like 10 minutes after she was born. But, you know, it was a situation where we kind of looked at it and it was like, okay, clearly there's some not good genetics here. This is a problem that's going to be reoccurring. So it's like she's got to go. So
yeah, so we drove up to the pasture just to check on everybody. We've been, checking a couple times a day to see if Brunhilde gives birth. And I saw one of the sheep with her, like looking up at the sky. And I'm like, do you have a nutrient deficiency? And then she got up and walked around. And I was like, oh, okay. So that may have just been I was smelling the air. But one of the ways sheep indicate pain is they put their head up, or that could also mean they're contracting, like they're in contractions, but this was not one of the pregnant sheep. So Tactical and I get up there and I realize there's something sticking out of her rear end that shouldn't be, that looks sort of like a softball with a little nipple on it. And I was like, that is a prolapse, which means her vagina came out. And that's not good. So I was like, well, crap. I thought we were past this. That was on Sunday.
Yeah.
We were coming over to the pasture to spend an hour with the sheep.
Just to hang out.
Just to hang out, get some reset. I had spoken at Kentucky Sustainable Living the day before, and then I had to dive into getting ready for Self-Reliance Festival, which requires a lot of computer work at this point, especially at that point. We're actually over the major part of the computer work at this point. So I called people and left messages about my prolapsed vagina, followed by statements of, on my sheep, by the way, just for clarity. It's not mine. And what do I do about it? And I learned what to do about it. And he went off and got stuff, right?
Yeah. I started collecting stuff to be able to deal with the problem. And then by the time I got back, you had enough information to make a decision.
Yeah. So as I thought about it, what we could have done was repair it, either get a veterinarian out to give her stitches to hold everything in, or they make a harness to hold everything in. And usually when that happens, the sheep is pregnant. So she was just pregnant enough to not be showing at all. So tiny pregnant, just think of it that way. So probably another 4 months to go in her thing. But we didn't know that. But I started suspecting it as I learned more about prolapses. And she's small. That means a ram did something a ram should not have done. So hopefully the other one is not.
Yeah.
No, the other one is.
Khaki?
Khaki already gave birth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, Khaki's not related to Red, is she?
No, Khaki and Red were twins.
Okay, yeah. So Red is, yeah. So the good news is Khaki gave birth with no problems. So Red was not very pregnant though. And this is part of why we're getting rid of rams, is because when they do get out, like this can happen, and that's not what you want to have happen to your younger females. You want them to be at least a year old. So I talked to Tactical and I was like, I think that we need to cull her, because our alternative is we bring her through, and if she's pregnant, she gives birth. It's going to be a hard birth. She might not make it through the birth. And then we have 2 more bottle babies that we're going to process because we don't want them passing the genetics on. And once a prolapse happen, it keeps happening over and over and over.
Yeah.
But we like her. And the hard part about culling somebody you like is that you like them and you don't want to, right?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was definitely a situation where it was like, there was no question once we actually came to the determination that she should probably get culled. It's like, she's getting culled. It sucks and I don't want to, but it's going to happen.
Yeah. So I called Nighthawk and I'm like, are you willing to shoot and skin one of the sheep and then I'll take it from there? And he's like, sure. And then we called all the Holler neighbors to help get her down the hill so that she'd be separate from everybody when that happens, because I don't like culling in front of each other, basically. I don't need the sheep more afraid of us. And we did that, and Steve and Nighthawk took care of everything. They actually, they not only skinned her, but they processed her down into quarters so that we could age the meat in the refrigerator easily. And today I get that and I start doing the finer cuts and putting it up. Yeah. So that's actually what my evening looks like, is assessing how much of that happens. You're going to have to take the bacon down to your fridge for that time, because I'm going to need my fridge. I'm also curing bacon in my fridge, which I'm going to look at the calendar. It actually might be time to throw that in the freezer anyway. But that was not the fun part of the week. It was really nice to have people around us to help us with that. And like, I know we can do the culling in one that we like that, but it's really nice not to have to in that situation. And, the same thing has happened with chickens in the other direction.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, because people get attached to their animal. You do. You're working with these animals every day. The other cool thing that happened is the Self-Reliance Festival stuff has been in a variety of different boxes for many festivals. And we're on our 8th festival. This one is 8, isn't it? 7 or 8. I should totally know that off the top of my head, and I don't. I'm such a bad emissary. But we have standardized on one size and style of bin, and Tracy and Steve went through all of the stuff which is stored in the basement where they are and organized it and inventoried it into bins, which made loadout like 4 million times easier. Was that 4 million times easier than last time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was so much easier.
We're still like, we're missing some things that should have gone out, some tables that I don't know where they are, but I'm going to go look for those, and I'm going to have to go buy some if they are missing. But it's really great to have that help, because while they were doing that, I was able to work on the marketing of the festival, on, you know, making sure the speakers had what they needed, all of those things that happen. And what's going to happen after Self-Reliance Festival is building custom shelves for those bins to go in. So it's just all like bin 1 goes here, bin 2 goes there, and that's going to make the whole thing super easy. And I've wanted to be in that place for a long time, but I would say it wasn't until the last 2 festivals that I knew, okay, this is basically the supplies we need. Like every time it seemed like we had to get a lot more supplies.
Yeah.
And now it's like, I still might have to buy more extension cords this time, who knows, but we have, you know, really long contractor grade extension cords and all this other stuff. I actually think a power center would be cool.
Okay.
He's like, whatever, Nicole. Okay. Next up, we have infrastructure, and Steve's coming over. Speaking of Holler neighbors, this at lunchtime to help us put my air conditioner compressor in place, which may not be a big deal to anybody else but me, but I have no way to cool my house, and it's going to be 80 on Saturday. So, which led to like, when you heat with wood, this led to an issue, right? Where we had to make a decision last night, because my house was 62 degrees, which is chilly, but you know, like I'm in this lined flannel right now to stay warm. It's probably 64 in here right now. And I can just like snuggle under blankets and go to sleep. It's fine. But I was like, I kind of want a fire, but I kind of don't want my house to be 75 degrees going into a weekend of 80 degrees with no air conditioner, because actually I'll probably be okay through the weekend, even without a way to cool. It depends on what the humidity does. And so finally Tactical's like, well, how about I start a fire while you're doing sheep stuff and just let it go out. So it kind of takes the edge off. And that's what we did. There was a fire last night, a couple logs. It was warm-ish in the living room, but not super warm, you know, like 68 degrees instead of 62 degrees. And then I just let it go out. And because it's a soapstone stove, it radiates heat. It's probably still warm to the touch, but it didn't make it, you know, like if I had gone all in on a wood stove fire, it would have been 80 degrees in here if I would have just kept feeding it all night long. So yeah, it's just in time. And then the exterior fence perimeter fence is he's made like a lot of progress in the last little while. Somebody came to visit and they were like, woo, your fence is almost done. And I'm like, yep, Tactical we need to make a video about what he's been doing, because the way you make those posts is pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the one that I'm getting ready to finish, because it's very unique.
Well, what do you do? Tell them what you do.
I'm using cedar for all of the posts, and I start by delimbing it, debarking it, and then depending on the actual post, like the one I'm working on right now, there was a strip going down one side of the post that was I'm gonna blank out on the outer wood.
Cambium?
Yeah, the cambium was pretty rotted down to the heartwood. So I just carved out the rotted wood and then charred the whole thing with a propane weed burner and then coat it in pine tar. And then the one that I have right now that I'm working on, kind of wide at the top, so there's that little Y is still there, so it just looks really unique. I have another one that it went up and it split into 3 different limbs, so it looks like there's like 3 fingers sticking up.
Would it make a good table base?
No, it's too small for
Okay.
that.
I want a table base that's cool and out of wood.
Okay.
Someday.
I will keep my eye
I'll show
out
you
for
pictures
that.
of what I'm looking for.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So what do you do to make them ready to go in the ground though? So you get cedar, you strip the bark, and then what do you do?
I mean, once they're stripped down and all of the wood is prepped, I just char them with the propane torch, knock off all the loose stuff with the wire brush, and then coat them in pine tar. And I put a pretty substantially thick coat of pine tar on, make sure I get it into every crack, knot. The ends tend to soak up a lot, so I'll put several coats on the ends just so that the whole thing is encased in a good layer of pine tar. And then right now I'm testing, and this is a several year test, but testing putting that in the ground without concrete, so just dry packing it. And also, like, one of the ones that I had to do the other day, it was only like 1.5 feet deep, so I stacked a lot of rocks in there to just help wedge the thing in place.
So we'll report back how that does in comparison to like pressure treated lumber, which lasts about what, 2 years?
If that.
Yeah. So as much rain as we get here, we're finding our fence posts don't last very long. And he did a bunch of research on this. Even in concrete, they don't.
Yeah,
And then you got to dig the concrete out. So that's a pain in the neck.
There's a huge debate on whether concrete helps or makes it worse. And I haven't found anybody that says, here is the actual explanation as to what happens and why, and the testing that was done, and so forth and so on. So at this point, for me, that's just kind of internet hearsay, rumor. If you're on the internet, you must know what you're talking about.
Yep. So anyway, that's what's happening here on the finance side. By the way, if you want to get a question in now, you better do it, or we're going to be signing off soon. We've spent about $70 on feeding Stormy so far. So she's a $70 sheep at this point, and another $33 just got spent. So it's more than 70. And that is a decision we made because she didn't have any deficiencies as far as physical deficiencies. She was just one of 3 healthy sheep born. So, and we want more ewes because they make more sheep. Um, I've got ground lamb, and I think it's for sale, except for I'm planning my spring workshop. So there's going to be ground lamb integrated into the spring workshop. So it depends on how many pounds we use for meatballs or whatever we do with that. And then my other ram who's going to process has already been sold. So we're pretty much selling the sheep as they come available beyond what we can eat pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But we're going to have a bunch, I think, in about 9 months. Because that's about when that time we're going to have 3 to 4 rams in about 9 months. And then if anybody looks like they should also be culled, hopefully we can do that without having to do it the way we just had to do it this week. But that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's why you learn how to process, so you can process your own stuff. K-Bonk says ground lamb. Yeah, it's delicious. Actually, it's the weekend of serving lamb, right? I'm doing a big old lamb stew that he doesn't know about yet this weekend for Easter, and it'll be delicious. And I basically just went to the freezer and I'm like, what are all the weird cuts left? So we're having weird cut lamb stew. That's what we're having.
Yeah.
And I had 2 tiny little lamb chops. I was like, well, that's not even worth cooking them as lamb chops. We'll just make them into stew. And then, of course, we have an on-site sitter coming during Self-Reliance Festival, which costs money. So that's hitting the Agris Tax Advice says, I love Easter lamb. Yeah, I didn't do a leg this time just because I don't need a lot of leftovers going into Self-Reliance Festival and being gone. And I didn't feel like freezing the leftovers. My freezers are actually in really good shape right now from an organization standpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the report from the Holler Homestead today, guys. If you like the show and want to support the work that we are doing here, you can do it in two ways. One, get your coffee at hollerroast.com. Two, consider becoming a member. Head over to livingfreeintennessee.com to sign up. Our next member webinar we moved it from this week to April. It's mid-April, and it's going to be a wild edible webinar, like how to identify plants, by Kerry Brown. It's going to be pretty cool. He actually told me the date, and I don't remember it off the top of my head, but we'll get that out right after Self-Reliance Festival. I'll get a save the date out before Self-Reliance Festival so you know what's up. Anyway, with that, guys, go out, make it a great week.